Hey everyone, and welcome to Her Own Narrative. This is a space where we gather to share the incredible stories of women, the ones you know and the ones you wish you did. We're here to celebrate their journeys, acknowledge their challenges, and build a community. Hello everyone, welcome to episode 2 of Her Own Narrative. Whose narrative are we listening to today? We've got a beautiful, amazing soul with us here today, Aman.
Hi, Neety. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on.
Always welcome. My pleasure. So, tell me your narrative. I'm so eager, so keen to listen to everything from a woman, from a coach, from a mother to the coach to a podcaster now.
Yeah, it's exciting news. So, for anybody that doesn't know me, my name is Aman Sunner. And I'm a self-worth mentor. So what that means is I help women unlock their self-belief, master their emotions, and take back control of those negative thoughts, because at the end of the day, all of these things link to your self-belief. And how I do it is via conscious coaching, subconscious reprogramming, and energy clearing as well. So I bring the science and the spirituality of self-development in together, because I truly believe that it's got to be a holistic approach, and you can't do it from a one-dimensional angle.
I totally agree. And what an amazing and incredible work you're doing. You must be really proud of yourself. Where does this come from?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I actually didn't really believe in myself. I used to struggle with my self-belief. I had a hobby business, I would say. It was a beauty business, and outwardly I was always confident and fine, but inwardly, when somebody asked me about, I don't know, whether it would be facials or anything, I would cringe inside thinking, oh my God, what if I get this information wrong? And really, I knew it because I'd done all the training, but it was just something that made me cringe because I didn't really believe in myself. But after going through all the work myself, I thought, hang on, if I can change and if I can do this, so can other women. And I need to just talk about this. I need to show the world that this can be done. So that's where it came from, that as I was in that time, probably a little bit lost in myself, and loads of women can really relate to this, right? You get to a certain point of your life where you're kind of step back and you're like, what now? Like, who am I? What's going on? And that had happened. And I started working on myself, and I thought, oh my goodness, so many women take this as normal everyday life. It needs to change. It's got to stop. Like, it's not normal everyday life. This is not how we should be living our lives. So yeah, I kind of made it my mission to spread that word of self-worth.
That's amazing. And it sounds, what you just said, it's so relatable. We all can resonate. So I'm not shy. I'm saying I'm 43 today, and a couple of years ago I felt the same. I felt exactly what you're saying. Worthless, absolutely no self-belief, self-doubts creeping from everywhere, and I would have never thought that I'm going to be sitting here today.
I know, amazing. Look at this studio, it's absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah,
but when you say self-worth, and when I talk about self-worth, it's not something that you realize at the time that it's self-worth, and it shows as different things. It shows as putting other people before you, it shows as people-pleasing, it shows as worrying about judgment. What is people going to say? What if this? What if that? It shows as the questioning, when you're constantly questioning your decisions, when you're doubting yourself. It shows up in so many different things. And actually, like you said, I didn't actually realize it was my self-worth until I started doing the work, and I was like, this is what it is.
But why do you think so? I know we both know, most of us feel this way. Come mid-age, they call it hormonal, they call it whatever, but most women hit their 40s and they feel lost. I firmly believe, yes, it could be hormonal, but we just had a time to catch our breath. We were so wrapped around doing all those roles, and that roles became our identity, but now we've had identity crisis.
So what you're saying there is absolutely true. Like, coming into 40s, it is hormonal, it is premenopause, but I work with so many women that are in their early 30s, 35 onwards, and it is different stages of life when you just catch a minute, like you've just said, you catch a minute and you're like, oh, hang on, is this how I want to live life? Because you find yourself, and it's that moment when you find yourself just plodding along, doing the same things day in, day out, and for me it was, no, hang on, there's more to me, there's more to me than this. And I know so many women feel like that.
There's unfulfillment.
That's
There
it.
is a void.
Yeah.
So we got to, but again, we are lucky that we are sitting in here and
Yeah.
we've shifted that. We've
Yes.
shifted our narrative. We are owning our narrative. Not many can,
Yeah.
and if we can, and what you're doing in your work, it's absolutely amazing. If you can make that difference, how fulfilling that can
Yeah.
be. Tell me, I know we're saying so many of us feel that way. Why do you think you felt that way?
Oh my God, for me,
I
No,
know, I know.
For me, so when I do this work with clients, and when I did it with myself as well, a lot of what you're feeling and your beliefs in the here and now, your reality, is made up of what was made up when you were younger. Now, that doesn't mean you had a horrible childhood. It doesn't mean anything like that. It's just your circumstances.
Yeah.
So for me, I think there was layers of different things. At school, I was never really the main friend. I was always the add-on person. So it kind of made me feel not important. Now, as an adult, you can logically look back at that and be like, it was fine. There was explanations, there was this and that. But the problem is that child is still living inside of me that feels that I'm not important because I wasn't chosen for the rounders team, or that friend didn't want to play with me, or whatever it was. There were circumstances throughout life, and I'd say juniors and seniors, where I didn't feel like I was chosen. Also, being a third girl, I think subconsciously played a part. Now, mum and dad were brilliant. They never, ever, ever made us feel like we were different, or there was never that narrative of, oh my God, a girl. However, within the wider society, you hear comments.
Yes.
So I think somewhere along the lines, I don't feel like that played a huge role for me, but somewhere along the line, there was a layer of that.
Puts a question marks.
Yeah, it puts question marks. Now, Mum always tells us stories of how Dad was the one that would say to her, no, you're going to get up, or you're going to go to the God Dweller, you're going to take the girls, it doesn't matter if there's 3 of them, we are proud of them, we're going to go. And Mum at 2, they continued. So it wasn't that. There's 4 of us, so being a third child also kind of, again, entered a layer. As a third child, you let your older siblings take place and you let them decide and make the decisions, and you just go with it. So that kind of made me a little bit more placid and go with the flow, and not really have to, if I'm honest, I didn't have to think.
Yeah.
You don't have to think. You've just got 2 sisters that are
Yeah.
bringing you up. It's just whatever.
Yeah.
Do what they say, it's fine. And that just creates your circumstances as an adult. Now, in my early 20s, I went through a lot of stuff that kind of, I would say, shook me a little bit from inside, and that really cemented. Growing up, this was nothing I realised, all what I'm talking about up to now. It was in my 20s that this really cemented the not good enough feeling, and it was when I did the work that I realised, okay, that was the chunk in the 20s that I worked through, that this was the basis of it when I was younger, that, not being chosen was the feeling of not feeling good enough because, why didn't they choose me for the team, etc., etc.
Do you think it played a part in your 30s kind of life as well?
Yeah, for sure. So everything I'm explaining to you, I've not had a horrific life. I've not had anything, traumatic happen. These are just so normal things that everybody goes through that builds up your reality and your belief now. Like, for me, like you said, my 20s, I spent a lot of not really knowing who I was. My 30s, I began to understand. And when people are like, your 30s are your best, oh my God, I really have found myself in my 30s.
That's amazing.
I'm 37 years old, and I'm waiting. Apparently the 40s are even better.
But I'm telling you, girl, you just got to wait for it.
But I feel sorry for people in their 20s because it's so hard. You think you're young and you've got it all, but honestly, when you look back, you're like, oh, poor girl.
You know what? I actually loved my 20s.
Did you? Oh, okay.
I loved my 20s. Similar to yours, I have had a fantastic childhood.
Yeah.
I cannot sit here and say, oh my gosh, I've got trauma from this, I've got trauma from that. Obviously, there are things when you start layering it down and stripping it down, where it's coming from. I can't point. But like you yourself, I've done a bit of work, sat with coaches, sat with counselors, and there is just to understand myself.
Yeah.
I was like, who am I and where is this coming from? This whole belief of not being enough. This whole belief of, because that was not a 26-year-old Neety.
Yeah.
26-year-old Neety knew she's badass.
I love that. So for you, it was kind of coming into the motherhood stuff, losing yourself through that, putting family first perhaps, and then you kind of realize that, hang on, wow.
Yeah, but I don't, and I think that's the pressure we women put on ourselves, because that wasn't like told to me from anybody. I was raised very independently, told to do good grades, get a degree, get another degree, be an MBA, do this, do that. So it was never that, oh, you got to just get married and look up. But I think it's a learned behavior.
A learned behavior, and it feels so natural in that moment to lose your sense of self. And it'll be small things that happen, and you don't decide, okay, you know what, I'm gonna lose my sense of self, but it's just small things that happen over time, and then one day you realize that, oh, I'm not myself, like not myself, and who am I? And it's okay to change as well. We as women, there's so many different stages of your life. You do change and you do become different people, and then when you realize you're not the person from before, that's when you also feel a bit lost, because you're like, oh, hang on, I'm not her anymore, but I'm not quite someone else yet, so where am I now?
So right, so absolutely right, because you're growing, we all are growing. In that growth, some of us just get lost, because where are we growing? Where is the growth happening? What part is it going to, kind of a thing?
And this is why I always say to clients when I do work, I'm like, the first thing that we work on is get clarity on your future. Where is it you want to be going? What do you want future to look like? Who do you want to become? Because I always give the narrative of like, you need the address to put it in the sat nav. You need to know where you're going to be able to know what action steps you're taking. Because I have so many people come to me and say, I just want to be happy. And that's great, but that's like me saying, I'm driving to London. Okay, what part of London? South, west, north, east? Like, where are you going?
Postcode.
We need a postcode, right? Happy for you might look very different to happy to me.
Yes.
And within the coaching I do, I always teach, we do a lot of spiritual teaching. So I'm like, we work with the universe, we work with God, we work with Creator, whatever you want to call it. So we need to tell God, Creator, Universe what happy is for us. Because happy for you, Neety, might be, I don't know, working full time, 12 hours a day. Working happy for me might be working part-time, picking my kids up from school.
Absolutely right. It's a contentment. Where do you get that contentment from? Yeah.
So you've got to figure out what your happy is. I had a friend that was talking to me once, and she's coming into her 30s, and we were talking. She said, I'm just not where I thought I would be when I reached 30. And I said, okay, well, where is it that you thought you'd be? She went, I don't know. And I was like, so
where are you? So
where are we going with this? Like, how do you know? What are you working towards? What's the journey? Because until you know that is not where you wanted to be or where you thought you'd be, but you have no idea what that looks like. So how are you telling the universe?
That's it.
What you want?
Specific. Yeah. Be specific. So what's your postcode?
Oh, my postcode. So actually, I'm quite on the way. If I say I'm quite on the way, I've always wanted. So since doing this work, I want the coaching to be successful. I want to be having an impact on South Asian women, on communities, helping women with their self-worth. Newly launched the podcast, which was a dream of mine. Speaking events was something that I always wanted to do. When I look at my vision board, I'm lucky I say lucky, obviously I put in the work, but you know, I've co-created enough to be able to tick off most of those things. So maybe it's time to actually create a new postcode.
Yeah. Yes. 100%.
Because I'm getting to the destination.
Yes,
so, and
need
that's
a new destination
actually
now.
Really fulfilling to be like, I'm living the person that I wanted to be.
And that's so amazing, you know.
Yeah.
I totally believe in that power, because I was talking to the team today and I said exactly the same. I was like, last year this time I created, about February end, I created a vision board for myself. And I had no idea what I was doing at that point.
Yeah.
I had no idea where I was going. Yes, I was creating events and all that, and at that point I'd put a office or a building for myself there. I had no idea. Today we're actually sitting in a studio, which is
yours, and you are so proud of it. So you should be.
Yeah. but this is
You had a vision, you had that thing, and you just went for it and did it.
and worked for it. You
Yeah.
know, again, a lot of people say, and I've had these conversations with so many people, what does manifestation mean? You can't just write over and over again and it's going to come true. No, it's not. But you know what? When you write over and over and over again, because I don't know, what is it, 963
Yeah,
rule,
okay.
and sorry, all these
There's
things. I
loads
did
of different- yeah.
everything under the sun to get what I wanted, and I'm still just
Yeah.
like you on the way. But what it does is it reinforces. It reinforces what you really,
Yeah.
really want.
Yeah.
And I think, and then when it does, you work
You
towards
work
it.
towards it. So with manifestation, if we're talking about goals and future and how to get there, there's many different ways, and I always work on it on a few different levels. So I will do like future meditations with people so that they can, because different people work different ways, right? You have a logical brain, you have the emotional, the feeler, the thinker, whatever it is. So sometimes somebody will be like, I know exactly what I want, right? In the brain, it's this, this, and this. Sometimes people are like, it's more of a feeling I'm going for. So we'll do a meditation to take them through into that feeling. Okay, now you've got that feeling. What does life look like within this meditation? What's happening around you? And then they'll be like, oh, okay, right, this is what I want. When it comes to manifestation, like vision boards and stuff, the science behind that is the more you see it, the more it goes into your subconscious mind. Now we have something called a RAS, reticulate. Oh, I don't remember it. We'll have to cut that out.
okay.
We have something called a RAS where if you make something known to your conscious brain, it will keep coming up. For instance, if you see a yellow car or
Yes.
think about a yellow
Yes.
car, you've heard this analogy, right? If you think about a yellow car, next thing you know, you see all of the yellow cars around it. It doesn't mean there's more yellow cars on the road. It just means your subconscious is locked into it now and it's more aware. So if you've got a vision board and you're looking at those visions, the podcast studio, whatever it is, you're looking at it more and more. It's telling your brain that actually this is a reality. So you can look at it as a vision board, you can write it out so it's in your brain. I listen back to my intention statement sometimes, so I listen back to it to get it into my subconscious mind. But also the visualization and the meditation allows you to, because your brain doesn't know between what's real or what's fake, right? So if you sit and truly embody, imagine you're in that moment, imagine you're in your goals, in the podcast studio or whatever it is. For me, it was on a speaking event. I imagine that my brain thinks it's real, and the more you trick your brain and train it to think it's real, the more it's going to be open, the RAS is going to be open to the opportunities and be like, oh, actually I could do that. Oh, actually, yeah, this, great. Because all them yellow cars
So
are there.
where does all that self-doubt and self-worth and all that, either they go or they come, how does that happen?
So you've got
in
the goal,
process?
yeah, you've got the goal, you've got the vision, and then it's like, okay, wow, this is what I want to do, and you're visualizing and you're writing it down, but then in your heart, you feel, oh, can I really do that? Yeah, and there's layers of self-doubt. So sometimes it's, can I do that? I'm not good enough for that. Sometimes it's, I'm not deserving of receiving that. Yeah, I'm not worthy of that. So we have to pick out what's going on here, what's your feeling, what is holding you back from reaching that. Who am I? A lot of success, who am I to be successful? And in our culture, we get a lot of that from women because it's the man that's traditionally successful and the woman is the little wife or whatever. So I'm talking about really, traditional
Some people can still
stereotypes.
relate to it.
Yeah, but what happens is because that has been a case, it is layered in our generational teachings. And whereas consciously, logically, it's not a thought of yours because you're like, oh, I don't relate to that. That's not the case. Somewhere in your body, that's going to be there.
Yeah, totally. So all this is absolutely amazing what you're talking about. Give me, if you don't mind sharing, how did this whole journey work for you? And if you don't mind sharing,
Yeah.
which part of you was thinking, I've got this vision? Part of you was like,
Yeah.
Aman, you can't. Aman, you just are not deserving.
Yeah.
And then Aman says, no.
So
I'll
for
do
me, the journey, oh my God, I love these questions. For me,
This is your narrative. You need to own
was-
it.
it started off as, you know what, there's something more in me. I was like, there's something more in me, there's something more in me. And the way I just felt like, it was like, I've got this light inside of me, I just don't know how to get it ignited. And that's the narrative I use now. That's the messaging I use now when I talk to women. I'm like, everyone's got this light inside of us. What I didn't know at the time was that it's because of these unprocessed emotions through life that push down and push down and push down. Our poor light dims out, our poor light goes out, and that's our self-esteem, that's our confidence, that's our self-belief. But because we've pushed all these emotions down, that poor light's gone out, so it's all about unraveling. So for me, I knew there was something more, I just didn't know what it was. So I started working on myself.
When was this first realization at that, like
2019.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, okay. 2019.
And then you thought, there's something more.
Yeah, and I was in the beauty business at the time, and I was like, there's just something more here. And it was when I came across coaching, and I was like, this is interesting, because I was dabbling with whether to do counselling courses. And counselling just felt like a very long journey, didn't quite align, and I was like, I'm not sure. Came across coaching, and I was like, okay,
This is something ticked.
this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Wow.
Yeah, I was
You
like,
just knew
this
it?
Yeah, I was like, this is it. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And for me, I then, there was a few things. I came across an academy, which was a life coaching academy, and it had a real spiritual element to it. And I, at the time, also had a Reiki session with somebody, and throughout the Reiki session, the vision of the academy came up, like kind of the branding. So this is where
Goosebumps now. I love this.
This is where the subconscious and the spiritual side must have comes in, because I've never told the story actually, because somewhere in my subconscious I must have seen that branding. I must have seen an advert for this academy, right? Now during that Reiki session, my higher self brought it forward and said, Aman, look out for this. So then I was like, oh wow, okay, this is cool. Yep, coaching, because I was looking at who to go with, which academy, where to train. And at the time, when I came out of the Reiki session, I thought maybe that's what my branding should look like, right? And then later that day, I was on Instagram, and there we go, it popped up, and I was like, okay, I understand. Thank you for the message. Thank you.
Yeah, algorithm got you.
Yeah. So clearly, I'd seen that somewhere. I'd seen the advert before. My subconscious had banked it. I'd not consciously thought about it anywhere. And in that Reiki session, it came forward. So I took that as a sign, signed up with the Academy. Oh my God, I absolutely loved it. And then from there onwards, I worked a lot on my mindset, did a lot of the mindset work, did a lot of the deeper belief work between 0 to 7. There was so many stories within that, came out. I did coaching swaps with the other ladies in the Academy, and started working through, started building the business, really building my Instagram, building the business. And then as I worked with people for a few years, I was doing it part-time alongside the beauty business. And then COVID happened. Beauty business, I almost fell out of love with it, if I'm honest. Yeah, I fell out of love with it.
You were meant to. Yeah. You were growing out of it. Yeah.
So I fell out of love with that, and I went full-time with the coaching. At the same time that year, Dad passed away, and a lot of the energetic work started to come in. I was always really spiritual, but that's where the energetic work kick-started. And then I found again, and I say found, I think it came to me, a kind of an academy in which I could learn to tune into my energetics and understand and read people's energy. I knew I was could dabble in it. I was very empathic. Like if you were sat there like, oh, you seem quite sad, and you'd be like, no, I'm fine. Like, anybody else would be like, I'm fine, but I would know. But this academy taught me to tune in, and then that's when the coaching really excelled, because I was able to use what I now call my 4-body framework, which is we work on your self-worth from your mental body, your emotional body, your physical body, and your energetic body.
Now that was an amazing conversation with Aman Sunner. Thank you, Aman, for being here with us and sharing your narrative. Thank you for being open and telling us some stories, your own beliefs, your lack of beliefs, your lack of self-worth. And today you're doing an amazing job out there. Women who are actually feeling the way you felt, you're there to help them. Thank you for listening, viewers. Keep sending us love, keep subscribing, and if you've got something to share, come and share with her own narrative, your own narrative. That's our story for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember, every woman has a story worth telling. If you have one or know someone who does, please reach out. Let's keep this conversation going. Thank you for being part of the community. Her own narrative could be yours, your own narrative. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, and like. See you till next time.